Touchdown, Alabama, let's get it.
The process, no one can stop this. Hottest show in the streets, I bet you can't top this. Rammer, jammer, yellow hammer, come see how we rock this. Alabama fans, the best, there's no way you can top this. Recruiting news and interviews, just sit back and watch this.
Recruiting news and interviews, just sit back and watch this.
The process.
Welcome into the process, Crimson Tide Recruiting. I am Justin Smith, the scouting and recruiting analyst with Touchdown Alabama magazine. And what a day it was for Alabama on today as they landed most of their commits in the 2020 recruiting class, getting the signatures from some of the top commits in the 2020 recruiting cycle. We kept you guys updated on touchdownalabama.com. I hope you guys enjoyed the coverage from yours truly throughout the day as I got a chance to see some of Alabama's early signees sign a national letter of intent, caught up with some of the Alabama commits who signed a national letter of intent. It was a good day for Alabama as they held on to most of the verbal commits that they came into the early signing period with. They added on four-star running back Jason McClellan out of Texas, who flipped his commitment from Oklahoma to Alabama. So I wanted to dive into what happened on the recruiting trail for Alabama on today, as I think this 2020 recruiting class is currently stacked right now, as Nick Saban said in his press conference on today that he really hit on some priority guys in this class and some priority positions for them in terms of depth, in terms of just pure talent with those guys in the 2020 recruiting class. So that is what I'm going to do in this special edition of the process. Basically take a look at where Alabama is getting in those guys in the 2020 recruiting class, and also take a look at where Alabama's 2020 recruiting class currently stands. So with that being said, let's get the process started. First thing first, when you talk about Alabama's success on today, you have to talk about the fact that they was able to survive scares from other schools possibly trying to flip some of the commits that they have verbally committed heading into the early signing period. When you look at guys like Kennedy, a four-star linebacker out of Theodore High School in Theodore, Alabama, Ed Ogeron at LSU really made a hard push for him heading into the early signing period. And you knew they was talking about how they beat Alabama this season. You knew they were bringing to the table that they're in the college football playoff and it's only going to go up for them, and they really put that on the table. But Alabama was able to hold off LSU for Kennedy. They were able to hold off Arizona State for Trayshawn Holden, a four-star wide receiver out of Narbonne High School in California, but he's actually a Florida native, a guy who really represents the state of Florida. He really likes saying that he's from the state of Florida. So Trayshawn Holden gets to keep his signature to the Crimson Tide. That's a huge get for Alabama as they were able to hold off Arizona State, as I said, and holding this guy stands at 6'3" at the wide receiver position, a position of priority for Alabama in the 2020 recruiting cycle, with the fact that Henry Ruggs, Jerry Jeudy, and Devontae Smith could possibly declare for the NFL draft at the end of this season. So I think Trayshawn Holden is a huge gift for Alabama as they were able to fight off the Sun Devils to keep his commitment and get his signature on today. They was also able to hold off the Florida Gators from four-star defensive tackle Timothy Smith, who is from the state of Florida, a guy who stays only a couple of hours from Gainesville. So Alabama really had to fight off the Florida Gators to land Timothy Smith. Smith is a guy who visited Florida several times during the football season. So Alabama really fought off some teams to land all of their commits that they had heading into this early signing period. I think that really speaks to what Nick Saban did on last week, those last 2 weeks before the early signing period, when he hit the road, traveling around the country, checking on all of their commits, making sure that they were going to sign to the University of Alabama on today. So a huge congratulations goes out to Nick Saban and the job that he did with Alabama's commits in terms of them not flipping their commitments to any other schools. Since we're talking about flips, we have to talk about Alabama flipping four-star running back Chase McClellan from Oklahoma to the University of Alabama as he signed his national letter of intent to Alabama on today. And when you look at McClellan, he's a guy that stands at 5'10". He's one of those running backs that is a bit of a complete package. There's not really one thing that stands out about his game, as he's the guy who has speed in the open field. He can run hard. He has an elusive, stiff form. So I think he's one of those running backs with the complete package. He joins Alabama's other running back commits and Rodell Williams and Kyle Edwards. As Nick Saban said in his press conference today, they wanted to add depth to the running back position, and they have done that with great execution in the 2020 recruiting class very early on by landing Rodell Williams, the 4-star running back out of Hueytown High School in Hueytown, Alabama. In my opinion, Rodell Williams is a guy who can do a little bit of everything, just like Jace McClellan. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He can line up at the Wildcat quarterback position. He can do a little bit of everything as well. And Kyle Edwards, in my opinion, he's more of a power back, one of those grinded out backs, one of those backs you're going to want to have on your team when it gets down in the stretch. You want to grind out time and basically run the clock out in the fourth quarter. That's what I think Kyle Edwards brings to the table. When you look at Alabama's entire running back class, this class is pretty special. A nice group of guys to add to Alabama's running back depth, and I think those guys are going to be answer to that problem when it comes to Alabama's roster on next season. I think these are going to be the only 3 running backs Alabama lands in its 2020 recruiting class. So it's a good job by Nick Saban and the staff when it comes to the running back position, as they added on depth with Kyle Edwards, Rodell Williams, and Jace McClellan. We have to stay in the backfield when you talk about Alabama's 2020 recruiting class and talk about Alabama's quarterback commit Bryce Young out of Mater Dei High School in Santa Ana, California. Bryce Young is one of the more talented kids in the 2020 recruiting class, one of the top athletes in his class, not even just as a quarterback. I think just off athleticism alone, he's one of the top athletes in his 2020 recruiting class. As I got a chance to talk to his longtime quarterback coach, a guy who has spent time with Bryce Young ever since he was in the 6th grade, when Craig Young, Bryce Young's father, reached out to him and wanted him to work with his son at the quarterback position. He said that Young is a guy who's always been naturally athletic. He's a guy who was a basketball player, really liked the basketball growing up, and he thinks that has translated to his game, and as he used that same mannerisms on a basketball court, he used that on the football field, because you're going to use those same actions when you're trying to cross over a guy. You're going to use the same action when you're trying to juke a guy on the gridiron. I think that is one of the more impressive things about Bryce Young is his athleticism, but that does not cover up the fact that he's just a great passer. He's an accurate passer, a guy who does not loses composure when the pressure gets to him. One of the other things I'm really impressed with about Young, as I said in the past, he knows when pressure is coming. He feels pressure coming from his blind side, so he's gonna step up in the pocket. He's gonna avoid that pressure without even seeing it, keeping his eyes downfield, keeping his composure. He has a quick trigger on the pass. This is a very special kid in Bryce Young, and I think he's gonna be in the mix. If Tua Tagovailoa does declare for the NFL draft, Bryce Young is gonna be in the mix for Alabama starting quarterback position, starting quarterback spot on next season, and there's no debate about that. I think Bryce Young is one of the more talented athletes in the nation, and I think he's going to show that at the All-American Bowl in January in San Antonio, Texas, as he has showed it at Mater Dei High School throughout his career. As Mater Dei's head coach said at the signing, he's the best quarterback they ever had in school history, and they had some nice quarterbacks at Mater Dei High School in the past. So Bryce Young is a huge gift for Alabama for so many different reasons. You can go on all day basically talking about Bryce Young and what he means to the Tide's 2020 recruiting class. But when you look at who Bryce Young is going to be throwing the ball to, Alabama also picked up a couple of wide receivers today in Trayshawn Holden, a 4-star wide receiver out of California. As I said earlier, they was able to fight off the Sun Devils to get Trayshawn Holden, a 6'3" wide receiver who can really stretch the field. I think he added on some speed this particular season. Many people felt he was a bit slower during his junior season at St. Francis Academy in Baltimore, Maryland, where Alabama originally got his verbal commitment from. I think Trayshawn Holden has added on some speed. He has grown a couple of inches. He has gotten a bit stronger, and a bit bigger. So Trayshawn Holden, in my opinion, is a guy who can really stretch the field at 6'3" and be a lengthy wide out and be a defensive mismatch when it comes to throwing the ball up for those 50-50 balls. But he also got a guy who's kind of the exact opposite of Trayshawn Holden, and Thaiu Jones-Bell, a 4-star wide receiver out of Miami, Florida. He's a bit of a shorter stature guy. A guy can really make guys miss in the open field, as I say on so many different occasions about Bell as well. He compares to Calvin Ridley, Alabama's former wide receiver, in my mind, with the fact that he can make guys miss in the open field, but he has that thicker frame, which is going to make him a tough guy to take down in the open field, especially when it comes to guys at the defensive back position. So Alabama did a good job by letting those two guys signature on today. They do have Javon Baker's verbal commitment, but he will hold off his signing until February. So who's going to be protecting Bryce Young and when he hands the ball off to Roydell Williams, Kyle Edwards, or Jason McClellan is going to start with Alabama offensive lineman commits Seth McLaughlin and Alabama's other offensive lineman signee and Javion Cohen. In my mind, Cohen is one of the top offensive linemen in the nation. Seth McLaughlin is also one of the more versatile offensive linemen in the 2020 recruiting class, as he has experience of playing all over the offensive line, playing in all 5 positions, including center. So in my mind, Seth McLaughlin brings that to the table. He's a guy who can play all 5 positions. He always wants to have versatile offensive lineman on your roster, and I think Seth McLaughlin is bringing that to Tuscaloosa. In my mind, Javion Cohen most likely line up at the tackle position. He basically can play the left tackle or right tackle. He really always brags about him never giving up a sack in his whole entire high school football career. So I think Javion Cohen is a confident kid, one of the top offensive linemen in the nation. If you don't believe me, I think he's going to really make his name felt once he gets onto the campus of the University of Alabama. And when Nick Saban talked about the offensive line group in his press conference on the day, said they really want to replace guys. A couple of guys may go on to the NFL at the end of this season. So Javion Cohen and Seth McLaughlin are going to basically replace those guys Alabama is expected to lose at the end of this season. They do have a commitment from 3-star offensive lineman Damian George. It was rumored they could possibly sign today, but it looks like he will not sign. He will actually wait until February. His recruitment could get a bit interesting, as he has always said. He is a package deal with 5-star running back Zachary Evans, and I don't think Alabama is going to land Zachary Evans at this point. So Damian George recruitment could be something to look out for Alabama in the future. But when you translate over to the defensive line, Alabama does have signatures from 2 defensive tackles in the 2020 recruiting class, and 4-star defensive tackle Jameer Latham out of Pickens County High School reform, Alabama. I saw Latham play a couple of times this season, once in regular season play and the other time in the Alabama-Mississippi All-Star game. I was most impressed with him at the Alabama-Mississippi All-Star game, as he looked very good. He's very athletic, and I think he was able to show that once he's got an uptick in competition, he showed that he can play against some of the top offensive lineman in the nation at the Alabama-Mississippi All-Star game. And I think his transition to Alabama is going to be a lot smoother than a lot of people think. But Timothy Smith is one of the top defensive tackles in the nation for obvious reasons. He's an athletic kid as well. He's a bit bigger than Jameer Latham. He's a guy who can plug up the hole. He has a solid frame. I think that Timothy Smith is a nice pickup for Alabama out of Florida. As I said, they were able to hold off the Florida Gators to keep his commitment, a huge gift for Alabama in the 2020 recruiting class. On the back end, Nick Saban said today they wanted to pick up 4 guys in the secondary, and they did that with Brian Branch, Malachi Morris, and Jacquez Robinson, along with Ronald Williams Jr. They got 2 safeties, as Nick Saban said they wanted, and Malachi Morris, Brian Branch, 2 cornerbacks, and Jacquez Robinson, and also Ronald Williams Jr. Ronald Williams is a guy who has experience at the JUCO level. He's an athletic kid, played quarterback in high school. As always, you want to put the ball into the hands of your best player, especially at the high school level. That's one of the reasons that Ronald Williams played quarterback in the high school when he was in high school, during his high school career in Louisiana. Jacquez Robinson, a lengthy kid at 6'2", who could stand to add on some pounds, but he's a really confident kid in coverage. I think that's one of his biggest assets at the moment is his coverage skill. I think Nick Saban really likes that about Robinson. Brian Branch is a guy who's really athletic, very explosive with the football. Once he gets the ball via interception or recovers a fumble, I think you're going to see what really makes this guy so special in the punt return game and the kick return game. I think Alabama is really going to show what makes Brian Branch special when he gets put into that position at the next level. Malachi Morris, a guy who played cornerback for most of his time during high school, during his sophomore and junior year. He mostly lined up at the cornerback position. He was a very aggressive guy, a guy who did not mind coming down and making hits, but he moved to the safety position during his senior season. He wanted to expand his role, and I think Alabama played a role in that, him switching to that safety position. And at that position, he saw a lot more. He was able to command the Trussville defense from the safety position, and he was also tested a lot more as he was able to catch interceptions and take them back to the house multiple times. He actually led Trussville High School in tackles this past season, showing that he's ready to come down and make tackles. So Malachi Moore is a nice kid for Alabama in the 2020 recruiting class. Alabama's 2020 recruiting class is still looking pretty strong heading into the traditional signing period. But what's next for Alabama? It's a lot of things that are still on the table. They only landed 1 tight end in Kaden Clark. Kaden Clark is a 4-star tight end out of Akron, Ohio, a guy who cannot really stretch the field with his speed, but I think he's going to be more of a traditional tight end for Alabama. He can line up tight. He can block from the tight end position, lining up tight. He can really go up for those 50-50 balls in the red zone. I think he's going to really really fit the mold of Alabama's traditional tight end, and Kaden Clark, the 4-star tight end out of Akron, Ohio. But Alabama only landed one tight end today, and they're going to want to add on another one. Darnell Washington could be an option, but a lot of schools are in the mix for Washington, so Alabama may not get Washington. It's going to be a huge battle for him as he will announce his commitment at the Under Armour All-American game. He did post an interesting tweet on Twitter today, basically with a pen and a paper saying he might have signed. It could be a secret signing. He might have signed today, but I don't know if it's Alabama. I don't feel it's Alabama at the moment. But look, going forward at the tight end position, I think the biggest target is going to be Brandon Fraser, a guy who was once committed to Arkansas, a 6'7" tight end, a guy who Alabama really picked up steam with heading into the early signing period. They started contacting him. They did visit him. Alabama tight end coach Jeff Banks visited him in Texas heading into a week before the early signing period. So Brandon Fraser, in my mind, is going to be Alabama's top tight end target. The top defensive tackle target is going to be no doubt Mckinley Jackson, the 4-star defensive tackle out of Mississippi, a guy who's a grown man in the inside. He's looking at Alabama. He has taken an official visit to Alabama. LSU is still in the hunt, so Alabama is going to have to battle it out with LSU once again, as they have done so many times in this particular recruiting cycle. So McKinley Jackson is going to be a huge target for Alabama moving forward. Raheem Jarrett would have been a huge target for Alabama, but he did flip his commitment to Maryland. I think that is so commendable about Raheem Jarrett. I think he's a talented kid, one of the top wide receivers I ever seen play at the high school football level. I'm really excited to see what he does at Maryland. Now, huge congratulations goes out to him for making that jump and being that type of guy who stays home. So that could be a huge get for Alabama's former offensive coordinator Mike Locksley. So huge congratulations goes out to Raheem Jarrett. But that's what I wanted to do on this edition of the process. Break down what Alabama is getting in a 2020 recruiting class. I hope you guys stay updated with touchdownalabama.com throughout today. We will continue to provide some of the top Alabama football recruiting coverage. I hope you guys stay updated on touchdownalabama.com. Subscribe to Touchdown Alabama's YouTube page. Pick up a subscription to touchdownalabama.com, as well as download the Touchdown Alabama app. It is located on all Apple apps, on the Apple App Store and the Google Play App Store. As always, I am Justin Smith, the scouting and recruiting analyst at Touchdown Alabama magazine.